Honestly, I didn't expect to switch over from an iPhone 15 Pro Max to an Android device so soon. I was waiting for the S24 Ultra until I finally made the switch over from my iPhone. But all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, a foldable phone caught my attention. This phone came out of absolutely nowhere, and that, my friends, is the OnePlus Open. Terrible name aside, this phone intrigued me for many reasons, but I just couldn't justify spending 2,600 Canadian dollars on a phone, especially considering I just spent around 2K on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. However, it wasn't until I met up with my friend John that I knew I had to pull the trigger. He handed me the OnePlus Open and said, "Here, hold it." And as soon as I held this phone in my hands for the very first time, I knew that I had to get it. It was unlike any foldable I have ever held. Keep in mind, I have used every Samsung foldable ever since the Z Fold 2, so I thought I'd seen it all. But the OnePlus Open totally blew me away in every aspect of its design. Holding my friend John's OnePlus Open for the very first time in my hands, I immediately noticed how light it was. The OnePlus Open is only 17 grams heavier than the iPhone 15 Pro Max, despite sporting an inner and an outer display, and it's 14 grams lighter than the Z Fold 5. Really impressive stuff. This design actually makes a ton of sense. It's not as wide as the Pixel Fold's design, and it's not as narrow as the Z Fold 5's design. You could say it's just the right size. I used to be an advocate of the Z Fold's narrow outer display, but after having used the OnePlus's design for a little bit, I totally get it. You can use the OnePlus Open just like how you would a regular phone with the cover screen. You can quickly unlock the Open with the fingerprint scanner. You can swipe through the cover display just like how you would a regular phone, all while having the option to unfold your device, unveiling a 7.8-inch massive inner display, the largest footprint out of any foldable I have ever used. Opening and closing this phone feels extremely satisfying. You feel like an absolute boss every time you snap your phone shut. The sound of both these displays coming together never gets old. The hinge on the OnePlus Open is actually solid. There is some pretty good resistance while opening the phone, which to me is a really good sign of a well-built hinge. But how will this hinge stand the test of time? Well, that still remains to be seen. I honestly don't know how OnePlus did it, but there's no visible crease on this foldable device. You can only see the crease in some very odd angles. But one thing's for sure, it's a lot less noticeable compared to the Z Fold 5's crease. The OnePlus Open is a wake-up call for the foldable market. And trust me when I say this phone has caught Samsung's attention. But what is it beyond the design that makes this foldable special?
I've been feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall.
How's it going, everyone? My name is RJ and this is the OnePlus Open. I've had this phone now for a little over 24 hours and I already have a ton of thoughts. Of course, if you guys do want to see more content on the OnePlus Open, then make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel. A ton of content is on the way. This is a very expensive phone and I do hope to make my money back by making these videos, so stay tuned. By the way, if you guys are wondering where I got my wallpapers from, they're all a part of my newly released wallpaper pack and you guys can find a link to all of these beautiful wallpapers made by yours truly in the description below. Something that immediately stood out to me while setting up this phone for the very first time was that this phone didn't even get remotely hot. It remained cool throughout the entire setup process. That's something I really haven't experienced on too many phones. My iPhone 15 Pro Max got insanely hot during its initial setup process, and so did my Pixel 8 Pro. So really impressive stuff here from OnePlus. Initially, I did want to get the emerald green color, but this was the only color available at Best Buy. They only had one in stock, so no question about it, I had to pick this up. But after having used the Voyager black for a little bit, I'm pretty glad that I did go with the black. The back of this phone sort of has this fake leather feel to it, which actually gives the back of the Open some great grip. And as a bonus, it doesn't pick up any fingerprints. My friend John got the emerald green color and the back of his phone is covered in fingerprints. Speaking of the back of this phone, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, this camera bump could literally be the size of a small elephant. But surprisingly, I love it, which seems to be the theme of this entire video. It's honestly quite unique and it's very different from the cookie cutter camera bumps we've seen on all these flagship devices. This to me screams statement. This camera bump sort of reminds me of a G-Shock watch. To me, this is just making a big statement everywhere you go. Now, I understand that there were some complaints claiming that this huge camera bump makes the phone top heavy. I've been using the OnePlus Open for a bit now, typing, gaming, taking pictures, and I can quite confidently say that it's not really that top heavy. In fact, I can balance this phone quite easily just using 2 fingers. If this phone was really that top heavy, I wouldn't be able to balance it like this. Just some food for thought for you guys. The camera camera consists of a 48 megapixel main camera, a 48 megapixel ultrawide camera, and a 64 megapixel telephoto camera with 3x optical zoom. While I really haven't had the chance to test out the cameras yet, the camera app has everything I want in a phone's camera. There's a dedicated pro mode with manual controls, a portrait mode, a dual video mode, and a movie mode that adds manual controls as well as lets you shoot and log. Here are some few pictures I took of my dog Grover while playing around with the cameras for a bit. Let me know what you guys think about the camera quality down in the comments below. The fingerprint scanner on the Open is great. It's quick and responsive, never once missing the timing. But I will say this, it's placed a little higher than I'd like. I feel like the ideal position would be a few centimeters lower. In the performance department, the OnePlus Open really has it all. It's equipped with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset and a whopping 16GB of RAM. I did play a few games of Wild Rift on this device in maxed out settings, and to my surprise, it handles the game extremely well. And man, it's been a while since I've used Oxygen OS. In fact, the last time I used a OnePlus device was the OnePlus 8 Pro, so it's been quite a while. Now this is a foldable device, which inevitably means it's capable of some ridiculous multitasking. Open Canvas is the future that OnePlus offers with multitasking, and after running many of my favorite apps, this has to be the best implementation of multitasking I've seen on a foldable device to date. It can simultaneously run 3 apps, regardless or not if they're optimized for the larger display. It's very similar to how the Z Fold handles multitasking by dragging and dropping new apps onto the screen. But the way Open Canvas handles showing these apps on the screen is unique. Most apps will display their usual vertical format, but apps that are optimized for full screen mode are kept in full screen mode. That's primarily because quote-unquote the canvas lets me switch my view, with full screen apps shifting around the main screen while I interact with them. This is without a doubt the most intuitive method of multitasking I've used on a foldable device. It's also great knowing that I can save up to 9 multi-app presets for extreme multitasking. I can set up a preset to run Instagram, Gmail, and YouTube as a group, and then set another preset to run Chrome, Twitter, and a calculator. These presets remain in the phone's memory, so if I use the task switch menu to move to another app, they will still remain accessible. Pretty intuitive stuff, really making use of that 16GB of RAM. The implementation of multitasking actually makes me want to use the canvas more frequently, something I really didn't feel while using my Z Fold 5. Now, it's far too early to talk about the battery life. I will use this phone as my daily driver for the next few weeks and get back to you guys on the battery life. But we can talk about the lack of wireless charging. I guess that was a sacrifice OnePlus had to make to keep this phone as thin and as light as possible. I honestly have mixed feelings about this. As much as I love the thin form factor, I have wireless chargers set up all over my house and in my car. So going back to a cable is going to be a bit of a struggle. But it is a change I'm willing to make for the 67-watt wired charging and the compact form factor. With the included adapter, you can get back 50% of your battery life in just 15 minutes and nearly a full charge after 30 minutes. So I don't know, is a lack of wireless charging a deal breaker for you guys, or could you guys care less because this thing does charge pretty fast? Honestly, I'm a bit taken aback with OnePlus's first foldable. I didn't expect a random foldable device to overthrow the Z Fold 5 so soon, but here we are. Now, it's still early for me, but I'm really feeling the OnePlus Open over the Z Fold 5. It feels more premium and more polished than the Z Fold 5, and considering this is technically OnePlus's first foldable, I'm impressed. There's a lot more to come regarding the OnePlus Open, so make sure you guys are subscribed. Drop a like on this video and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. If you made it to the end of this video, drop a dolphin emoji down in the comments below. I would love to know who my true supporters are. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to flex with your folding tech.